The world is a scary, cursed body. The world is only a question mark. But it is impossible to explain all of this in this world. You even know the science and technology of this world. You have taken the videos from the internet, and you have been looking for a solution to this problem. You can see the videos in the village. You can see the family around you. Maybe you can see a person's face. Because we are now talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the revelation of the heart and the fear of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the truth. And we are talking about the events that are not logical to the people who are afraid of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations for the health of the patients, because we are making the necessary preparations with the kneading of the dough. The first works of the skillful, even the most famous ones, are now being made into dough. The breaking of the dough is made into a dough, which is not like the dough of the past. The dough is made into a dough of the past. After the kneading, the dough is made into a dough of the past. The dough is made into a dough of the past. The finished dough is made into a dough of the past. The body is constantly thin. The skin is constantly thin. The skin is true for the health of the body and the body's health. And most importantly, the body is less and more weight loss. The constant struggle does not mean that a large amount of nutrition is used. If you have any of these information, or if you have any information about the local diabetes diagnosis, we will offer you a free consultation at our health center. At our health center, excellent medical professionals will answer all the questions that have aroused your anger. And Samar Ali was a doctor. Our patients who have been diagnosed with this disease for hundreds of thousands of years have lived a healthy life for the first time. Don't forget, no matter what you do, the disease will not be removed from you. And even the most painful injuries will not be cured. According to statistical information, every year, 7 million people on Earth leave this world from diabetes. Now click on the link in this video tag and remove your phone number. Our experts have already made a conglomerate. This is not that. End. Only today. This girl was born in 12-year-old Lyra Brand, Kentucky in 1910. She was born in China, and her face and red smile are very beautiful. Her history starts with the beginning of the First World War, and she was a Kyrgyz. Lyra's mother gave a military uniform to many young people who had passed away. But the First World War, the most terrible events that killed more than 22 million people in history, did not happen. Jimmy was a terrible example. But he was only a great hero. But there are all sorts of stories about the two cursed frogs. I will give you the opportunity to remember the most cursed frog in history. Are you ready? Thank you. At first, the 1-meter-long frog in the Dengiz people's collection. It was found in the city of Beazar. But you haven't heard of its historical history yet. The frog was born in 117 and is currently in Florida's Key West City at the Fort East Martello Museum. In 1994, it was only found in the gin auto until it came to the museum. Jin was born in the same year as the frog. Jin named the new frog Robert and stayed with her. But while sleeping, Robert stood on the bedside of the bed. Soon, his mother heard the sound of Jin snoring and the sound of the furniture being washed and washed. Finally, when the door opened, Jin was lying on the floor and the bedroom was full of people. I asked if his mother was here. He said that he had seen the dog sitting in the bed and said that he had made it. Whether he was asleep or not, Jin repeated the same thing. The truth is that these were all just a common excuse for the children. But the genie's parents were suspicious of this. However, they also talked about other unnatural events, and a few months later, the children, having become very aware of the fact that they were in a relationship, began to respond to him with a very strange voice. Because they were saying a great laugh. The guests, however, Robert was surprised and said that he was a big man. They did not like it. As soon as the child woke up the girls and went to sleep, Robert continued to live like a djinn. Robert was put in the box right there. But the children in the corner were chasing Robert's decision to leave the town. Even though he was always hiding. When he left the town, the boy was found with no explanation and was still missing. Eventually, the children decided to get closer to his mother. Unfortunately, Jin died in 1974. The king, after his new owners came and left the palace, immediately found Robert and became a hero. But happiness quickly disappeared, because the girl began to look at him with a very sad look. The father thought that this was a dream of the children. But the king's children, Robert was not a nobody in the village. The guests saw Robert's face when his first husband was taken to the Jin Kagda Yaman. They visited the museum, where he was living, instead of the homeless people who were often taken to the Jin, the family of the victim. The victim was found dead in the hospital, and the victim was taken to the hospital for a medical examination. But there is no clear evidence to confirm this. The scientists did not get any information about the victim's death, because only the stories of the birds are still there. True, some people said that Robert was broken by the small selfies he took. Robert is known for his false surveillance. He was written by the saints of the world. He has more than enough friends on Facebook. My friends told me that my friends were going to the Korchak. Robert actually left Kongal, but there are also Korchaks who have gone to Asapkit. We take the road to Japan to know the history of the country. In 1918, at the same time, a boy named Ikiti Suzuki traveled to the north of the country and saw a 40-centimeter-long Korchak with a kimono worn out. He bought the Korchak from the shop and sold it to the family, and gave it to a 2-year-old girl named Kiku. The girl was very fond of the name Hiroki Ka, which means to be close to her. But 1 year later, she was taken to Japan by a car accident. The family was in a hurry, so Kiku Ka was taken from them. The mother buried her, and the family members, who were used to having a big heart, put her in a family who remember the deceased remember the family, they put it in the coffin. The family members of the girl's honor paid respect to the coffin. This is the story of the mother. But everyone felt something wrong when they opened the coffin door. The coffin was sold, and it had a straight hair that came from the head. Now the hair is still long. The hair that protected the frog's hair was cut. The mother of the two, who did not know how to explain this, cut the frog's hair and put it in the shape and put it in. The same place. If the hair is cut in the incident, and the family began to take the spirit of the deceased to the grave. In 1993, Kiku's mother and father-in-law moved to another border. They did not know Akika and did not know her. They were not able to find her. The family was forced to leave the village. The family was forced to leave the village. In 1993, Kiku's mother and father moved to another border. They did not know Akika. Due to the unlawful connection of the hair cutting, the Kogorchak family decided to stay close to the grave. For this reason, the family moved the Kogorchak to a local worship house. According to the legend, the first 20th century AD, most of Japan's borders were made of rocks. There, the folklore was not only about the examples. The legends were stories about the people following the spirits and the creatures. And the monsters were considered to be powerful in magic. If we say that this is a related event, the legend is possible. The incident of Akika being tied to the currently, the frog is under the protection of spiritualists and its appearance is being investigated. Perhaps the world does not think that the hair is coming from somewhere and is coming to us, but it means that the frogs need it. I scared you so much, frog. If you are Robert, subscribe to our channel. If you are Akika on M, if you like the video, press the like button. We learned the horror. This is actually a Batsby chair. Is it the only one that is not broken? In fact, to avoid any accidents, they even put a wall in the middle. Why not? Because Thomas Batsby, who was named for the chair, was a criminal living in the northern Yorkshire border of England in 1702. He sold his property to the Tanger Towers and his money to the markets. They all got together and eventually Thomas became his property. There are some objections to this, but one of them is that Thomas was sitting on this chair in the tavern, and the police officers were watching him. Thomas, who was leaving the room, said, "Whoever sits on this chair from me will die from the poison." Unusual last words are unusual. The death scene, which was held in the square where the coffee shop was held, was spent most of its life on the body. This is why the name of this place is called Cain Chalik. Although the first name is not clear, they know how long it took for the dead to die, no matter who sat on the chair. For example, it is known that the dead were killed in the Kubor Tazilovci, which was issued in 1984, known as Kubor Tazilovci, is known. He committed suicide by sitting on a chair and found a dead body. Soon, a worker named Nasser took this chair from his partner and put it on his chest and ate it. His partner also died from the pain. Therefore, before the transition to the Second World War, many soldiers who were sitting on the chair were sacrificed in battle. But in the 79th century, after sitting on the chair for a few hours, the owner of the tavern decided to leave the planet for 350 years and found his place in the museum. Now he is a deceased in the world. But it is possible to sit in a certain place. Because it is an unbearable place for others. Unfortunately, there is no official information about the status of the chair in which the victims were placed. Did they mention these? Yes. Moreover, during the 1940 the furniture designer, when he looked at the design of the chair and the wood, in the 1940s, that is, in the 1940s, he was following the tradition of the 140-year tradition of the Thomas Busby. The way to prove that the work was not made of clay is to sit and see. The scientists are of course not aware for this. The show of the costumes, the handsome Smiley is dressed as a horse and is looking at the horse. Can costumes be made like this? These are the most famous costumes of the Japanese theater, which express the sad face of the character. For example, if you put the face of the costume on the mask on the hill, he will look like a hero. On the contrary, if you put it on the hill, the mask will look like a hero. But experienced actors were given the opportunity to work with these masks. Because a magic is connected to them. In the 14th century, the Japanese folkloric culture, the masks were used to hide their special features, such as hatred, enmity, hatred. And gab, that is, it was able to capture the dead body and kill the dead. Although this is the name of Japanese folklore, the legends of the world are not made up by taking them out of the human body. In general, this is a creation of the evil spirit from the outside. The possibility of the evil spirit is a relationship that affects our actions. In the last tradition, the evil spirit was not created by the evil spirit, but by the evil spirit itself. The fact that the government has not been able to do anything about the situation is a fact. But the current situation and the lack of a solid spirit are different. I know one thing. We have already seen these candidates 10 times. Iraq. The best friends of black diamonds, the best friends of black diamonds for the young. Diamonds are the best friends of girls. But black diamonds are the true love of the beauty. Different from the colorless, black diamonds is a small amount of graphite. According to my opinion, the 67.5 carat black diamond is the first to be found in the 19th century in India. The sculpture is a spiritual god of creation of the Hindu. It is made of a marble statue. The stone is actually a marble cross. Anakrahi Baruhani, the god of the creation of the Hindu, was taken away from the statue of Brahma. The stone was officially broken by Brahma's goat. Brahma, who was upset by the goat's death, was forced to sell black diamonds. The killer, who was considered to be the owner of this treasure, was killed, and then the whole of Europe was torn apart. The victim in the but damn it. They are wrong to say that the death of people is a coincidence or a coincidence. Anyway, it is necessary to find a way to get this cat. But the black eagle is not the only one that has been found in India. This damn thing is called amethyst, which is called amethyst. The name of the stone is Kogtash, meaning the ambassador. The history of the stone began in 1857. After leaving the Holy Temple in India, the Cavalier Palconic Ferris came to the home of amethyst in England. After leaving the other temple, Kadim House, began to take all the raw materials. The health of the falcon was suddenly deteriorating and it was getting worse. Cain Rock's son was also in such a bad shape. In 1891, Edward Hiranelli was in the stone world. His health was getting worse. Cain was soon to be taken to the hospital, where he was admitted to the hospital, where Cain was trying to convince Amethyst to take the stone to the family. But he was not convinced. The family tried to convince him to take the stone. Edward, who had left the house, had transferred the stone to the Richards Canal. But after 3 months, one of the workers found the stone from the canal. A man who knew this truth bought the stone was bought by a poor man named Edward. He was so scared that he put the amethyst in a box and put it in the bank's storage. Edward wrote a will on the opening of the Temir box, which had been closed for 3 years after his death. When he died in 1943, he wrote a letter to the stone. The first was written in the year 1943, when Edward's favorite stone was written in the amethyst history, and it was exhibited at the British Museum. The stone is now kept of the chain of events. The museum experts did not dare to look at the stone. Maybe it's just a lie. Anyway, I don't spend a lot of money to buy food and drinks. If I had money, I would. This means that all the photos were taken with the help of selfie cameras, and whoever else was shooting the photos, the quality was poor. But did any of the people in the East ever shoot your face? It was a mystery. But the spirits were found in the first selfie. The spirit was captured in the 19th century. In 1860, American photographer William Mahler took a picture of a famous woman. The late President Abraham Lincoln, who was behind Mary. Because of this, William's work was getting worse. He was called the most famous among the rebels, the famous Turkish circus master, Fiyaz Barnum. He was a great man. He was a great man. He was a great man. And was used in construction work. In the Tartu Chiunan house, they showed the faces of all kinds of people, Abram, Lincoln, etc. These images were taken in a way that was different from the others. William used a plastic bottle that had the face of the deceased, and a transparent bottle that had the image of another person, to put it in a photo camera. And placed a transparent bottle of plastic on the bottom and placed it on the. Some say that the image of the camera needs time to get a lot of information on the sensor. This image is not a simulation. In this way, the image of the object moving in the image is possible to be reversed. Although the scientists have thought about this, they have not found many evidence that people have not been able to find the evidence. What is the reason for this? The situation is not the same in all countries. Although the world has been thinking about this issue, people have not found any evidence to prove why the Sharpelarga is still in existence. 5. Intellectual engineering. It is possible to make a bone oils without any competition in the field. In The 1890s, the competition among the engineers was demonized. At that time, the Holy Mary's worship house in the city center of Swansea was in a state of emergency. One of the local engineers offered his son-in-law, but for some reason, the special reason of the foreigner was not satisfied. The engineer who came out of the way found 2 fake bodies. He was selling a knife next to the church. He broke the building and cut it off from the red stone. The building was then restored to the statue of the devil on the building's roof. "Did these sheep call you sheep?" The engineer cursed the goat and said, "Your worship room is broken and burned and the fire is burning." "My devil said, 'Stay and die from your head.'" He called the statue of the called Keksenik. He would wake up every day and look at the sky from the top. In the meantime, he spent 50 years and bombed Nemezlar city during the Second World War. At the time of the 72-hour attack, 11,000 people were, and 872 of them were destroyed by the Holy Mary. The value of the city was greatly improved, but the strange thing is that the building was still in a state of decay. The engineer's anger, although he did not believe in 1962, but the devil's servants found it in the Swansea Quadrant Trade Center. The locals were shocked by the fact that the painting was painted by the devil. The painting was exhibited at the Swansea Museum in the 90s. Now it is displayed on the Shisha floor and there is no worship place nearby. The last one is Elmo. The Sesame Hill is one of the most popular shows in the world. But Elmo is one of the main heroes. He has been known to have been a big fan of the kids. In 2008, the kid was scared by the mother of the day of the funeral. James, who was called by his brother, was playing a game. When he was not, the electron player said, "Kill James's," and the little bird started repeating the terrible sentence. The frog and the child repeated silently, "Kill James, kill James." The frog's power of the children. This is reasonable. But if the devil did not enter the child, who would have said the repeated words or written the memory? I would have been right to not have the devil's connection. But the fact that it is really better not to be. The unwillingness of the newsman. I am sure that I will not put myself in danger by telling the rumors. He is called the unlucky mummy. The name of the tomb is considered to be the tomb of the famous Egyptian Boyal sarcophagus in the 900s, which was found in the late 19th century in the British Museum of Bakia, in Fiva. This name was found elsewhere. When the tomb was found in the ruins, 4 Englishmen, including 2, were killed in secret. Of them English, died in a mysterious way. 2 of them died of a heart attack. Whoever found him, he knew that he was related to death, misery and heart attack. The name was also found in a mysterious way. But why? The body of the deceased, which was reflected in the coffin, was the spiritual god of power, a reflection of the face, a powerful god of light, a spiritual spirit. It is possible to manipulate anyone who has been trapped in a place where he has found his own place. The most interesting is the story of the artifact, which was released in the book, but one of the more than 1,000 people who have been shocked is a journalist named William Stead. He was the first to write an article about the mummy. The others who were in the book were also writing about the fact that William was found dead at a certain time. Maybe it was because of the mummy's evil actions. But all of this is coincidental. It is possible that the story was found by chance. Because in William's article, there is no evidence that people have confirmed that the coffin was a weapon. Therefore, it is possible that this story that was made to discuss the trust of the people. Now I'm here to say that I'm here. Damn it, I don't have anything. The man was going to the top of the dead cobra. At this time, the explanations were, "Oh, who is it? Why are you doing this? Oh, no, he's gone. He's close. Come on, I don't have it. It's gone. It's gone. I don't know if it's real."